Hello, my name is Richard Weber. I am the Unified Communications Specialist for Com Solutions Company. And today's tech tip, we are going to talk about configuring the ShoreTel headquarters server backups using the ShoreTel provided backup scripts. First thing we need to do is either an RDP session to the ShoreTel headquarters server or be on the console of the server itself. What we're going to do in order to schedule these backups is actually configure task in the Windows task scheduler that will run on a daily basis and run a ShoreTel provided script that backs up the databases and the voicemail and CDR records and whatnot to a backup folder on the root of C drive. So first thing we need to do is open up the actual Windows task scheduler, and that can be reached under administrative tools on the ShoreTel headquarters server. Once we're in here, what we can do is if we say action create task, we'll create a new task to do that backup. So what we're going to do is basically just flow through these tabs and create the executable that will run every night in order to do the backup for us. So first thing we're going to need to do is to give it a name. I'm going to call this the ShoreTel HQ backup. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to tell this to run whether the user's logged in or not. And that way then if the machine gets rebooted or the user logs out of the console, this task will still run and do the backup on a nightly basis. The other thing we should make note of here is what account we're going to log in with and whose rights we're going to have in order to do this backup. I'm going to stick with just using the local administrator account on my ShoreTel demo system here. But, you know, in a production environment, I would probably create a backup account, either a local backup account or if I was integrated with the Active Directory domain, I would create a backup user in Active Directory in order to perform this task to more facilitate changing the administrator password down the road and not worrying about interrupting this task from running when I do that. So once I got this first task defined, the next thing we're going to do is go to the Triggers tab. And on the Triggers tab, we're actually going to specify when to run this script. So we're going to say new here. And on this page, what we're going to do is we're going to say daily. But of course, you could schedule this to run weekly or monthly. The choice is really yours. And then up here, we're going to say, you know, what time to run this. And I'm going to just go through here and select this to run at 11 p.m. at night. A couple other things I'm going to do on this tab is I'm going to basically say stop this task if it runs more than an hour. There's no reason for a ShoreTel backup to run any more than an hour. They usually run pretty quick. So what I'll do is this way, if it gets hung or for some reason whatsoever, we can have it automatically stop that task after 1 hour. And down here at the bottom, we're just going to make sure that the enable box is checked, which it is by default. After that, I'm going to hit OK, and from here, we're actually going to move on to the Actions tab. So notice on this tab, what we did was we basically said, every night at 11 p.m., I want you to do what I specify in the Actions tab. So in the Actions tab, we're going to come in here, and we're going to say New, and at this point, what we're going to do is say Start a Program. So that program is the actual backup script that ShoreTel provides and installs and copies over to the server when you do the ShoreTel director install. So at this point, I'm going to say Browse. And I'm going to go through the program files, and it's going to be x86 on a 64-bit box. And from there, I'm going to go down into Shoreline Communications, and then into Shoreware Server. And then there's a Scripts folder, and underneath the Scripts folder is a Sample Backup Restore folder. So once I get in here, there's a couple things I see. I see this HQ Backup All. There's also a DVM backup all. So HQ backup all, if I select that script, I'm going to be backing up everything on the headquarters server. If I select DVM backup all, I would be backing up everything on my DVS servers. So at this point, we're going to select HQ backup all, and we're going to hit open. Now, one other thing I like to do on 2008 boxes is this start in directory. I like to make sure that that's populated with the actual folder that the script file is in. So what I'm going to do is just copy that and put it down here in my startup directory. At which point I can say OK. And then the next step is going to be my conditions. So on my conditions tab, what we want to do basically here is eliminate these power options. We do not need those. And then check this wake the computer to run this task in case the computer's in a a hibernating state just due to low activity. We just want to make sure that this script will run. And then on the last tab, the settings tab, we're going to say, allow it to run on demand. We're going to check this button right here to say run tasks as soon as possible after a scheduled miss for whatever reason. And then here we're going to say if this task fails, restart it every minute and attempt to do that 3 times. We can uncheck stop if it runs longer than 3 days because we did that on the other tab. And also we want to uncheck this if the running task does not end when requested, force it to stop. We do not need that as well. At this point, what I can do is say OK, and it's going to prompt me for the password for the user account that we specified back here in the General tab. So I'm going to go ahead and type in that password and hit OK. So at this point now, if I come back to my task scheduler library here, I can see that I have this ShoreTel HQ backup, which is what I named it, and the status is ready, and it's ready to run every day at 11 p.m. Its next runtime is going to be tonight at 11 p.m. And this is the account that it's using. Now, if I also want to have a script to back up my DVS boxes, I want to add another task here to back up those DVS boxes. So we can go ahead and do that as well. I can click Create Task over here if I want. I'll call this the DVS backup. We'll do all of the same options. Run when user is logged in or not. I'm going to keep the same user account here. I'm going to go to my triggers and say new. We're going to go to daily. Let's set this one to start at 11:30 p.m. Got our time set there, and we're going to say stop if it runs longer than an hour. And the enable box is checked. At this point I can say OK. Now I go to my actions. This is the same thing that I did before, except I'm going to select the DVM backup all. We're going to do the same thing with the startup folder. Put that in the startup folder. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to go to my conditions and the same options we selected before, and my settings. Under settings, we're going to do the same options we did last time as well. At which point I'll hit OK, enter the password. Oop. Helps if you type it correctly. So now I can see I have 2 backups ready to run. At this point, I'm all set. Those backups are going to run every night. It's going to run those scripts. And I will have my backup stored at the default location. So where is that default location? So the scripts are set up to store those backups into a Shoreware backup folder on the root of C. And you can see here that I actually had a backup run a little bit earlier today. And there are all my call records, my data, my database, my voicemails. Everything's going to be backed up into that folder. If I wanted to change the location for that folder, or modify some other settings, if I navigate down into that folder where those scripts are at, there is a ini file right here. And in that ini file is where it's depicting where to put those backups, as well as where those scripts are run from and all that. There's a couple settings in here that you can change if need be. And some of the previous versions of ShoreTel director that were installed on 64-bit machines did not have this x86 in the root directory in here, and you needed to go in there and change that. So if you're having problems running this script and you're on a Windows 2008 box and maybe running ShoreTel 12 or 11, you're going to want to modify the script to make sure it says x86 there after program files. So that concludes this tech tip. First off, just say thank you. And once again, my name is Richard Weber. I'm the Unified Communications Specialist with Com Solutions. And be sure to check back here often for further tech tips that might be posted. Once again, thank you.